Hello everyone, welcome to the talk today. I want to talk about what it takes to be a developer at a high growth startup and my own personal experiences at working at these kinds of companies. We have a very simple agenda for the day. We talk about how a normal product development lifecycle would happen, what are the pros, what are the cons. We talk about the new way, which is the product developer way, as I like to call it, what it means, what it does not mean. I think more importantly, what it does not mean is very important for the developers attending this talk. And of course, there are pros and cons here as well, so we'll talk about those. And then some case studies from my own personal experience on working in both these modes of development and figuring out what works best for a given situation. Let me introduce myself. I've been working for a dozen years. Sounds like a lot, but 12 years it goes by really quickly. I've been at a few companies. I've been at Qualcomm, FireEye, Flipkart. I've also founded my own startup before, and currently I've been at Meesho for the last 2 years. I've seen the hyper growth phase at two of these companies, Flipkart and Meesho, and currently I manage all the consumer facing systems at Meesho, and I've seen the absolute hyper growth that Meesho has had over the last 2 years. The normal way. I couldn't find a better way of saying this, so it's the way that most teams work, whether it's agile or whether it's waterfall or whatever in between stage that we want to do. This is usually how it goes, right? Somebody's giving you requirements, and you as a developer are thinking of how to best build a system to solve this. You're thinking as far ahead in the future as possible. You're trying to say, in the next year, if this person wants to now release 3-4 iterations of this or variations of this, can I still do the same thing without fundamentally changing my system? So that requires us to design systems which can handle these scenarios, which can handle all possible things with ease. I think there's a common wording which says, let me just do this with a config change, let me not try to make code changes, which is perfectly fine. It takes time, and you have to think about a lot of those things. And usually there's a vetting process. Your manager, your lead, somebody is going to kind of have a discussion with you. All of you will kind of agree that this is the best way to go ahead, right? And then you get into the sprint planning rituals, the activities which will allow you to estimate how complex a task is, how long it will take to implement it, how long it will take to test it, when will you release it, how will we release it, all of those things. The graphic here is a little bit of a meme, and while us developers have all worked in this and we know that this is a very efficient process, unfortunately there is a little bit of a pushback from other teams saying this is very slow, and I just asked you to pass the salt, but now you've been building it for a long time. So there are of course pros and cons to this. You have very well-defined chunks of work for a given workday, and of course waterfall or agile, you've already done the planning, you know what you're getting into, you know how complex or easy a task is. A sequencing of a larger project makes a very large, very complex project easy to break down and work on. So it makes things more predictable in that sense, which is great, which is what you require a lot of times. Each person is also doing a very specialized job. So I'm a developer, you're a QA, somebody else is a product manager, everybody knows their roles, everybody knows what they're doing. And all the rituals that we use, the stand-ups, the planning, the grooming, the walkthroughs, the demos, all of those help in kind of setting those priorities, catching milestones as they come along, making sure things happen, right? So that's great. The problem is that when you're at a smaller company, when you're at a less structured space, nobody really has that big picture view that you really want to innovate or to put out features that matter to your users. And this can hamper the feature set itself that you're trying to build. And there is, of course, because you want to make it more predictable, you don't want to go over time, you will buffer your estimates. You'll say, I know that this is 3 lines of change, but let me say it's half a day of work. Sandbagging is the very bad term that people use in the industry, but yeah, it does lead to sandbagging, and this means that project scope or project timelines can be longer than absolutely necessary. But the most important, and in my opinion, the most relevant point here is innovation becomes hard. Somebody's told you what to do, somebody else is reviewing everything that you're doing. It gets very hard for you to go out and put yourself out there, try something new, put some experiments out, right? It gets very, very difficult in that sense. And because of this, the speed of development, if you want to measure it in a particular way, it trends down over time. As the team grows, as the project grows, as you get into more and more feature sets, your ability to put out more features goes down over time. And unfortunately, this is one of the realities of the current way of working. So also, of course, as the graphic here shows, you might want to go to Mars, but you might end up going to the moon, which sometimes happens. And at the end of the final demo, the PM or the user might say, I don't accept this, and go back to square one. So those are all issues that could happen here. Why do we do this? Seems very odd that I can only do sequencing of projects. I have to have very super specialized roles. I believe this is a little bit of incentivization programs that companies have evolved over the years, as well as how failures are treated as part of the company culture. So if you're in a banking system, or if you're in a very highly regulated industry, the cost of a failure is very high, and you never want to be that one person who clicked the button and created $1 billion of losses for your trading company. So when the cost of system failures are high, you're going to try to put guardrails around it, and you're going to structure it better so that these things don't happen. Also, as developers, it's fun for us, right? Like somebody comes and says, hey, can you build a machine that can put out coffee? And you'll say, I won't just give you coffee, I'll give you tea, I'll give you hot chocolate, I'll give you milkshakes. And it's a lot of fun for us to go and build systems which can evolve over time, which can be multifaceted, multi-tenanted, highly available. Those are things that make us, cool developers. So obviously we find a lot of joy in it. And if you're in a larger company, if you're in more structured companies, there are incentives that are given to you saying, hey, this guy built this really cool complex system, and hence he's up for promotions. He shows that growth as a developer. And those incentives over time make people take more complicated decisions for features which maybe didn't need that massive complex set. So unfortunately, the incentive in this sense goes the wrong way, just in terms of company goals. And I'm sure all of you would have seen this. It's a very famous YouTube sketch around how experts are treated. Somebody says, can you draw red lines with transparent ink? You'll be like, of course I can. I'm the expert. I can do it, right? So as developers, we like to be those experts, and we like to use those acronyms. And this model of somebody giving us requirements and us translating that into systems or into designs helps us achieve those goals. And that's one of the reasons why we like to do this. So yeah, this is kind of where the normal developer or the normal life cycle goes through, right? Is there a better way? Is there something where, as developers, as smart intellectuals, can we build things faster? Can we build things better without needing all the structure and all the project management and all the other hoo-ha that comes around this? Yes, there might be, and this is my take on this. It's called the product developer way. Maybe I should come up with a better name for this, but at this point, yeah, let's just roll with this. The mindset that the product developer has is not one of, I have a role, you have another role, let's all just play our roles. It's more of we are one team, and now let's all huddle together, let's make this happen. Now, does that mean that I have to play the role of a marketing guy for a day? Sure, let me go ahead and do it. That allows people to change roles as the project sees fit, and that allows people to kind of work towards finding a solution for a problem rather than expecting a solution to be given to them. And we also focus more on the problem that needs to be solved now, rather than saying, oh, can I really make hot chocolate out of a coffee maker? Nobody really wants to do that, right? So that way, the focus is very high. There is a lot of incentive to get things done for this particular problem. However, and this is where things get a little murky, a little gray, implementing the solution well doesn't go away. We're not saying go and build hacky solutions everywhere, just put if conditions everywhere. Things will work. That's not the product developer mindset. You are still building good systems. You are still building scalable, observable solutions to the problems that you have. Those parts don't go away. You're not writing bad code. You're just writing code that works well today, and you're admitting that you may not have thought of all possible corner cases and you may have to come back to this and iterate. And the iteration is where this mindset really, really helps. We are okay with certain failures, we are okay with certain shortcomings of a solution, and we do the trade off in favor of going to market quickly, in favor of getting things done quickly. And that is the mindset that really helps a developer succeed, especially in a hyper growth company, in a small startup which is trying to get out there, fight the David versus Goliath battles. You need people who can do these. And if you are one of these people, trust me, you're going to be a superhero in these companies. There are pros and cons. Let me just be very, very upfront about this. This is not the perfect solution. There are going to be places where you'll say, why did I do this? Let me go over the pros first. Everyone now knows what you're doing, right? There is no silo. So you know whether you're building something for tier 1 users, for tier 2 city users, are you building something for kids to go and look at? You know everything about the problem. So there is no silo, or there is no compartmentalization of data here. So everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody is moving fast to ship things out. That is the ultimate goal. You want to ship things out, you want to try how this works in production, you want to come back to it and build that feedback loop very quickly. And that means that everyone is learning new things. There is no formula here that people are trying to apply. If you have a formula, go to the normal way. You know exactly what to do. You don't need the product developer mindset. You need the product developer mindset when you're trying to disrupt things, when you're trying to experiment with things, right? And that intrinsic need for experimentation is what improves the person's motivation to work. Like me personally, as a developer, I like to think that I have grown over time with every project that I worked on. And how do I do that? By doing new things, right? That's where this particular mindset really, really helps out. The cons, the big ones. My personal experience, it works well in smaller teams. If you have a 50-person team working on a large project, this is not going to work. There is too many cooks, right? You're going to spoil the broth. Don't try it. Try it out with a smaller place, with a smaller team. Or if you can, create a smaller team out of a larger team, and then have this smaller team work in this product developer mindset. Have the remainder of the team go on the normal way. Those kinds of how should we say, adjustments or compromises can be made. People who like structured work days, you will not like this model, because there is a lot of unpredictability. There will be days where you will have to call somebody at midnight, or start your systems at midnight just to see how it performs then, right? I know nobody can predict that for you. You have to go and do that. So structured work days kind of take a hit with this. There are no rituals. You're going to be doing some work, and after you do it, you'll realize this is not what I really wanted to do. Throw it away, start again. There will be some amount of churn. Accept it, say this was a lesson, let's move on. That's the mindset that you should be gunning for. And yes, the last one, your company culture should support some failures, right? Sorry, developers in the banking industry, this is not for you, right? You should be following the normal mindset. But everybody else, I think this is the way that your company culture should support some amount of failures. Not everything going down every single day, but a few bugs will fall through the cracks, and that can happen. So why do we do this? Why would somebody try to ship something faster without any structure, without any guardrails around this? It's one of the reasons why we all joined the startup in the first place. We want to ship fast, we want to grow fast, and a smaller company which is trying to disrupt the market has a very high cost of slowing down. It might even take the company out of business if they don't do it fast enough. So as a company goal, or as a business, it makes a lot more sense for pushing things out faster and iterating on those solutions, rather than spending a lot longer in just building solutions out perfectly. And it's also fun for us as developers. Again, it's fun to take a real world problem and ship a solution to it, right? You're working with a great set of teammates. Everyone's motivated. Everybody's jumping to get back to work the next day, right? And those soft signals, the parts where you get unexpected learnings, where you suddenly understand how digital marketing works, even though you've never done digital marketing before. Those are the parts which make this kind of a product development fun for somebody like an early developer. And most startups, most growth companies are going to give you incentives based on company goals. You're going to grow if you help the company grow. It's not because you built a fantastic system. Like, yes, that might be a side effect, but if that fantastic system didn't help the company grow, yeah, the chances of you growing is smaller. So that way, the product developer mindset is more aligned towards a growth stage company, a place where everybody is expected to achieve company goals and everybody is expected to, have their eye on the ball. Dhoni, of course, always has his eye on the ball, but we're all trying to be the same person, right? Now there are details, right? I have sugar-coated a lot of things. There's a huge scope for hacking here, which I want to kind of prevent. That is not at all the scope of this discussion. I'm not encouraging you to hack. So I'll just go over a few of those details. You have to understand the feature completely. And when I say you, I mean you as a PM, you as a developer, you as a QA person. It doesn't matter what your actual job title says. If you're on this team, everybody on this team has to understand the feature completely. And by completely, I mean you should know what happens when a brand new user comes onto your app page, or when somebody who wants to do cash on delivery doesn't know what their PIN code is. You need to know exactly how this will be handled, and you need to think through those cases on your own. You cannot afford to skimp on those. You might choose not to implement a solution to it, but you should know that this is a corner case that will not be handled. And this is where the iterations will help you. You will know that you've not handled this, but in the next iteration, you need to come back and handle this. So that is the key part of understanding the feature. Backward compatibility is a must. In product developer mindsets, you are going to be shipping a lot of iterations of a feature before you're going to be happy with it, which means every time you ship something new, you don't want old users to just be left out and living with those bugs. You want to build backward compatibility as much as possible. If you can't do it, if you absolutely can't do it and you have to take a hard call, build a brand new flow. Bump up your APIs, create a way for all user data to be migrated from one version to another. Do stuff which doesn't impact some older users who are part of your older cohorts. You need to take everyone along with you, right? And you also need to know what are the success metrics for a feature. It's very cool when somebody says, yes, I'll go back to my coffee machine example. It's great to build a coffee machine, but how do you know that it's a good coffee machine? If you don't know that, you're not going to be building a great solution. So know what it is that you're really trying to do. Maybe in the case of a coffee machine, you wanted to produce 50 cups of coffee per minute, right? Random number, but if that is the metric that your company is gunning for, you need to know that that's the metric. And A/B experiments are fantastic for this, right? Build some variations where if you're doing 49 versus 52, what's the metrics which are going to change, and you'll figure out what works better for you. So those kinds of internal, intricate understanding of the feature is very, very important for these people to really succeed at their job. Your code should be performant. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is not a hackathon. This is not a place where you just sit up all night, chug Red Bull, and put something out, and you don't really care whether it's even connected to a database the next morning. This is not that. This is the part where you are building solutions which will go to production, which means it has to be production quality code. The part that you're skimping on, the part that you're not designing for, is the future possible use cases. But this particular use case that you're building for has to be 100% watertight. So the normal things that a developer would not do in a production code apply here. You will not write code with high cyclomatic complexity. For people who don't know what this is, if you write if, else, if, and then put a for loop at the end, that's high cyclomatic complexity. You don't want to have too many conditional loops or conditions or loops in your program. You want it to be a simple, clean, readable flow. You want to be able to break up flows as much as possible at logical entities rather than through sequence diagrams, right? That is absolutely not okay to write bad cyclomatic code. You should be parallelizing flows. When you go to production and let's say this feature goes viral for whatever reason, you will see bottlenecks showing up on production, and it will be too late for you to then go and say, oops, I forgot to add a thread pool here, let me go and add it. That's not going to work. You need to think of that before, right? You need to know if this goes viral, I need to optimize my database fetches. Let me put a cache layer on top of it and build it now. It's not hard for somebody to add those things. Those are the simple building blocks of any service. So do that now, parallelize flows wherever possible. Your life will be much better. And I think the third part is a little bit of a contentious point. Comments, I know a lot of people don't like comments. This is my personal opinion. I think comments really, really help because we will iterate on the solutions a lot. I will forget why I went and did something 2 months down the line. And I will have to come back and change that code. So now, if I write a comment saying, I am now iterating over 10 entries in a list, that's already what the code says. The next line is literally going to say for I in range 1 to 10, right? What you want to write is a comment saying what the code is doing. You're saying that at this point, I am trying to find that user who has one or more order. That is a comment which is helpful in the developer coming back and writing the next iteration of the code. So that adding comments or making your code more readable makes your life much better while you run in the product developer mindset. If you don't do these things, you will find yourself getting stuck in loops far more often than if you didn't do it. Oh, and the last part, yeah, and I think this is hygiene. Please never duplicate code. If you see something that you want to call, make that a method and just call it. Really simple, but I just want to put it out there. These are hygiene rules. So yeah, please make your code performant. Do not over-engineer. While it's nice to reduce the cyclomatic complexity, while it is nice to parallelize, there are two principles that really help. One is the Occam's razor. Occam's razor is basically, it says if you have a simple solution, use that single blade solution rather than try to build a sword for it, right? The best solutions are most often the simplest ones. Not all the time, but most often they're the simplest ones. If you're thinking, let me go and build a GraphQL entity for maybe 5 fields in a JSON response, yeah, you're maybe over-engineering it. Try not to do that. The other effect is the Pareto effect. 80% of your use cases will be kind of handled with simpler solutions. Solve for the 80%. Don't worry about the 20% as much. You should know that the 20% are not going to be handled by it, but you don't need to solve for it today. So use Pareto, use Occam's. That helps you kind of reduce the over-engineering in the design of your systems. This one, the next bullet point around coding is cheap. The way that I look at it is, as developers, we have now spent multiple years honing our skills. So for us to go and write 1,000 lines of code in a day should not be a challenge. This should be as easy as maybe Chetan Bhagat writing his next new novel. It should be like a factory when you just sit at your computer and it starts coming out. So get to the point where you can write as much code as necessary. The number of lines of code you write doesn't really matter. Coding is cheap in that sense. How fast you can write that code is important. If it takes you 5 days to figure out how to connect to a MySQL database, then we are in issues, right? That's not something that we want to do. So time is more essential than the fact that you're writing code. And that is the part where the over-engineering can sometimes happen, where you'll say, oh, I'll make this configuration based, I'll do this, I'll run this as a runtime configuration, which I will load up from Zookeeper. Cool, yes, we can do it. Is it absolutely necessary is the question that you should start asking. And that's where Occam's or Pareto would really help you. And don't obsess over perfection. It's okay to not put out the absolute best code on day one. Put it out, do a refactoring on that later, learn, iterate on it. Makes sense. Don't just give up. Don't put bad code, or don't put, I wouldn't say bad code, don't put poorly designed code out there and let it be. Put it out there and then immediately start fixing it. Keep pushing towards a more perfect scenario over time. Spend more time testing your code, guys. I cannot say this often enough. The person who writes the code or the person who implements that logic knows every single part of it. If that code has not been tested and it is going to production, it's going to fail. You would have missed bugs. We are all human, irrespective of how amazing our 12th standard scores were or how great our GPA was in undergrad. It doesn't really matter. You have to write tests for your code, and some simple guidelines here. Write code that's unit testable. Unit tests are a lifesaver. Trust me on this. The overhead that is involved in writing unit tests is nothing compared to the benefits that it gives you when you have that confidence saying, I know that my date utilities will never fail. That is a massive confidence boost for any developer. You want that when you're going live and you're going to do it fast. aim for logical coverage. There are, of course, the standard tools will tell you, oh, you have 80% of this class being covered by a unit test. That doesn't really tell you much. You can do it by just invoking null parameters everywhere. That doesn't really help you. What you want is the logical coverage. What happens if a brand new user now came and tried to sign up again? That is the kind of case that you should be writing a unit test for and handling it on your own. And it kind of ties back to your understanding feature completely. Your unit test should be based on what your understanding of the feature is, not vice versa, right? The third part is, again, when you're at a growth stage company, there will be certain infrastructural elements which are missing or nobody has had the time to build it. So testing environments can be a pain to maintain. Thankfully, now we're all going towards the shift left testing culture. So test on your laptop as much as possible. I have done this personally during my own dev career. It helps. It just resolves so many conflicts and bottlenecks and just waiting around for somebody to come and set up something for you. Test on your laptop. It just makes life much, much better. And use mocks. I think mocking is, again, hygiene. Please use mocks. It just makes life very easy. Data-driven development, also known as ad instrumentation. You need to know when your feature is trending well or trending badly or just plateauing. And the way you will know that is by adding metrics. Start off with something as simple as logs. You need to know how many users signed up. Okay, fine. Add a log, put that into a DB. You can query it and you can see what happens. The simplest solutions for instrumentation are fine. The second part is very, very important. When you've shipped something fast, there is a high chance it'll fail. You need to have alerts which will wake you up in the middle of the night when that system fails. Put those alerts in before you go live. Don't do it after you go live. It just helps. And yes, there might be a scenario where you completely misjudged it and your new feature is being abused and you're losing the company tons of money because, I don't know, your referral codes went onto a Telegram group and everyone was like, sure, let me refer everyone that I know. Keep a kill switch handy. You need to be able to say, switch off this feature right now. I don't need to deploy anything. I switched it off. Sorry, my bad. Let me go fix it and come back. This really, really helps save a lot of the heartache that can happen in shipping things fast. Great. So I gave you a lot of gyan around what to do, what not to do, what are the pros, what are the cons. You might be saying this is a lot of theory. Like show me how it works. So here are a few samples, and these are things that I have personally gone through. So I can talk about them in a little more detail and how it worked out really for me in real life. So I was at Flipkart, like I mentioned, and BBD1 2014, big billion days, right? It was the first time we'd ever done it. We had no idea what would happen, but we just wanted to gun for it. So the goal was to revamp our mobile apps so that just before the sale, we can change the look and feel and everyone will know that a sale has really started. That means that we want to have server-driven configurations for your app. It needs to be very modular and kind of change the user experience dynamically at real time. And that was kind of what everybody wanted to do. We knew that this was going to be a game changer. The problem was we realized this maybe about 2 or 3 months before BBD, and there was no changing the date on BBD. So now we suddenly are in a stage where we all know that this is critical for the business and we don't have enough time to do it in a proper way. So we said, okay, let's do this the crazy way. So PRDs, product requirements, were written on desks. Literally, the PM would sit beside me, say, I want this, and it will be written down on my desk, and I look at that, and I'll write code for it. We'll check in just once a day saying, okay, guys, I need help with QAing this feature. Somebody else raise their hand, you volunteer, you get things done. We went from idea to launch in about 45 days. And it was a crazy time. I don't think many of us slept very much in those days, but we were able to launch it. And very, very strangely, there were very few production issues. BBD1 was, of course, for those who remember, was a little bit of a dicey time for Flipkart. Their systems were going down. There were a few. But this system, the part which completely changed the look and feel of the app, didn't fail, which was weird. And I was literally like holding my breath with that kill switch ready right then, and I was just monitoring all of our systems, and we breezed through it. And this system ran for a long time. We iterated a lot, of course, a lot of new changes, a lot of enhancements happened over time, but the core part of being able to do a server-driven mobile layout still works to this day. And just as a comparison, after maybe about six to 7 months of this, we decided, okay, yeah, we need to revamp this a little more. And this time we said, okay, we won't do the crazy part. Let's do it the normal way. And it took a whole year for doing this. I'm not saying that that's bad. Like, it took a whole year because it was a very complex project. But if we had tried to do that the previous year, we would have missed BBD. The company would not have met its goals. So these are the kinds of scenarios where you want to be able to have that flexibility, saying, yeah, I'll skip some of the structure. Let me go and try things out on my own. Another one, so I guess this was the third BBD. So we built a chat system for Flipkart, and what it did was, think of it like a WhatsApp, right? People could chat with each other, share products, create groups, basically WhatsApp within the Flipkart app. So the initial launch we did the normal way. We thought of all the possible scenarios, we built it out. It was actually, for such a large system, 8 months was not bad. And when we did it, we went live. And then again, BBD2 came up, this was BBD2, yeah. So BBD2 came up and somebody said, hey, we should have a chatbot so that people can engage with us just before the sale and they don't get bored while waiting for the sale to begin. And we were like, yeah, this is a cool idea. It'll help really engage our users. Let's build it. And in 2 days, we built a very, very, very short little quiz chatbot. It was literally maybe about 1,000 lines of code, maybe less. And at that time, I think BBD was multiple days. So over those next 5 days, we got more than 1 million interactions with the bot. And this was we were not even close to that number during our estimation. We thought maybe 5,000 people will use it. And it was like 200 times that, right? Fantastic in terms of getting the company goals up. Horrible in terms of getting things stable in production. And if my ex-teammates are looking at this, you will know we did not sleep at all for those 5 days because there were just too many issues on production. And this was a case where the data-driven development didn't happen. We didn't have enough metrics warning us about when things would go bad. And we didn't have kill switches where we could just say, sorry boss, you're no longer allowed to enter the system. That meant that we had a bunch of outages during a peak sale season, and that is not something we want to do. So this gave us a lot of lessons to learn, and that's one of the reasons why I have these guidelines for product developers going forward. And then doing it the correct way later on took about 6 months. So purely, again, from a company goal point of view, 6 months would not have helped us in BBD. But it was a complex enough project that you will take that much time if you do it in a more structured way. Meesho Monday. So lockdown 1, right? 2020, we had no idea what would happen. Suddenly one day, only essential businesses are supposed to run. And Meesho was not an essentials business. We were clothes and home appliances, no, not even home appliances, home care at that time. So we had to launch vegetables and essentials literally as soon as possible. So, and everyone was working from home, so you can't even do the old, okay, let's all get together in a war room and sit together. Crazy times. So we decided, okay, create this small little team, give them this very simple condition of tell them exactly what to do, not even written down, just orally we told them, guys, this is what we want to build. And thankfully, the guys were able to reuse a lot of the original Meesho flows as much as possible. We went from idea to launch in 2 weeks, and strangely enough, no issues on production. So the fact that we were able to move so fast was because we removed all structures from this. If this person wanted to deploy on his own server and divert traffic, 10% of traffic to that server until he's comfortable with it, we let them do it. And the phased rollouts really, really helped us in moving fast, in making things happen here. And the impact was massive. Our resellers base at that point, we were a small company, right? We could have lost our entire user base if we had not done this. Instead, because we were able to do these things, Meesho didn't just survive, we thrived during lockdown, and we kept growing through lockdown 1 and 2, and the Monday was the critical feature for that happening. So this was a case where absolutely fantastic team involvement happened here, even though everyone was remote, and we were able to do something phenomenal in a very short amount of time. Similar thing around the lockdown time, we had to build a social network because our resellers, sure, they're selling essentials and vegetables, but they also wanted a place to be able to talk about how easy or hard it is to do reselling. And this meant that we had to build a community for them. Similar stage, we went from oral PRDs, bring a small team together, tell them, guys, this is what we want. We went from idea to launch in 7 days. And I still look back at this as a fantastic success story for this particular mindset, because every one of these guys did every single role: dev, QA, PM, marketing, production support, every single thing, and even content creation, right? Some of our guys are actually going and creating posts so that they kind of seed the data with it. So absolutely fantastic involvement from everybody made us go live in a week, and there were no issues in production again. And this system, when we tried to redo it post open up, took about 2 months of time, because this is actually, you're creating a mini Facebook, and it went in 7 days. So absolutely fantastic way to launch a feature, learn from it, iterate on it, and kind of do things correctly the next time around, right? So yeah, these are the reasons why I like the product developer mindset, and these are the reasons why I believe that every hyper-growth company will give an opportunity to do this. So if you're a developer, if you're thinking, is this for me? Here are a few takeaways. As a developer, I think at some point we all need to understand your best work will happen when you're in a good team. So teamwork, having a good set of people around you who are motivated is what really brings the best out of you. And people who build for speed succeed more often than people who build for perfection. Succeed is a very vague term, but as a developer, my own learning, I would say, would be far faster if I built for speed than if I built for perfection. And I think there are some fundamentals that everybody has to do, right? You have to hone your coding fundamentals so that you are able to bring your skills to play when the need arises. When the situation calls for it, you should be that guy who can spin up services in a matter of hours, who can write brand new app pages within a matter of hours. And those are the kinds of skill sets that you can really build up, and these become your superpowers. This is something that very, very few people in the industry have, and if you have it, fantastic. And while you're doing these super fast, super crazy iterations, build guardrails around your hacks. And I think that is a lesson that I have learned the hard way personally. So build guardrails, have those kill switches, have those metrics. That will save you a lot from heartache. Work for a company where these kinds of things interest you. If you are a person who likes working for user-facing projects, join a company which is doing user-facing projects. Make sure that you're joining and working at companies where your own interests align with that of the business, and that way a lot of things just get aligned. And considering the economy that we're in, considering the society that we're in, this is a very easy thing to do right now. So career advice, guys. Go ahead, try it out. That's all, folks. Thanks a lot for joining in and for listening. I've put out my Twitter and LinkedIn out there. Feel free to connect with me. I'd be happy to discuss this further with you guys. It is a controversial topic. There are a lot of subjective opinions. I would love to hear your thoughts. And also, quick blurb, we are hiring. We have a cool new careers website, and we're looking for great people to join us. Thank you very much, and have a good day.